Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808. And today we have a very special guest on board. One we've been trying to get on for what feels like eons. We have got writer, producer, and podcaster extraordinaire Sean Kantrowitz is in the house. How are you doing, man?
I'm happy to be here. I was saying before, this was starting to become like the detox of podcast interviews. A lot of people were skeptical whether or not it was going to happen. There was a lot of rumors circulating, but I'm glad we were able to finally, connect and make this happen. I'm a big fan of the show and really happy to be here.
Oh, man, thank you. A big fan of you. A big fan of the detox analogy. Very big fan of that. And so, yeah, I'm here for that. Today, though, it's 3-album run time again. We're diving into what is a very, very special body of work, very special group, I suppose, Little Brother. And we are doing the listening from 2003.
I see y'all cats with your hands high, up front shouting out the song real loud, real proud, letting every other person know who you came to see and who you came to rock for. Little brother, that's why we stay vibing, pen stay scribing, wrist rotating to keep your soul pulsating. It's been a long time and most folks still waiting. All apologies, but thank you for staying patient and die hard. That's why we try hard, dig deep demand so we supply y'all.
The Minstrel Show from 05.
The good Lord, I prayed to him, and he said niggas is listening now, so I better have something to say to him. So I'ma tell him how it went down, man. Doing shows for free, going out of town, man. The way I almost broke down and got a 9 to 5, cause I had more press than sound scans. This is the price that I pay for this music, and every word that I write is a testament to it. And if I had to go back, I wouldn't change a thing. Wouldn't recut it, re-edit, or change the frame, cause it would not be fair to turn my back on the struggle when that exact same hustle got me here.
And Get Back from 07.
I had to sit and assess why all my favorite groups is a mess. Then I'm like, they probably split for the best. They had to make room for the rest. Now we on the brink of success. Niggas getting praised in the press. Niggas getting backed by Quest. LB is the new conquest. Throwback sound that's fresh, oh yes. Everybody's hitched to the wagon. Best kept secret, somebody leaked it. Ink with a major, watch how they freak it. Gotta show the people we can keep it tight. Deep down, no felt something wasn't right. Gotta keep pushing despite that everybody changed overnight. When the numbers came back light, now we out of.
Before we do though, I've got to ask you, I ask everyone who comes on, what is the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours, my man?
It's so hard to answer that because, I just live and breathe hip-hop. I get out of bed in the morning and I'm doing, head spins on cardboard. I set up the cardboard before I go to sleep and it's right by the foot of my bed. What is the least hip-hop thing, though? Let me see if I can parse the answer out of what is going to be such a challenging thing for me to answer. I think that I'm also a musician, and I've been really working on getting my finger-picking acoustic chops up, like really trying to get my very intricate sort of folky stuff going on. And it doesn't, obviously hip-hop samples everything, so I guess anything could be hip-hop. But, I think that practicing, strumming chords and arpeggios is not necessarily one of the 5 elements of hip-hop that we think of.
Yeah,
so,
no, you're right. Yeah. But cornerstones of folk, you're going banjos, probably doing harmonicas in there as well. Let me know when you get the banjo out, and I'm here for that live stream.
Yeah, you'll be the first to know. Maybe I'll test it out on you first, and if you give me the seal of approval, I'll go public with it.
I love it. I love that. But sure, that is a very good answer, and I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing how the progress is on that. But if we are diving in, then right, Little Brother as a group, there's so many different ways to put it, but I would say they're a very singular group. There's not many like them in my knowledge of hip hop. Like, they seem to do something very specific and do it really well. I would love to hear from you though on these 3 albums, The Listening, Minstrel Show, Get Back. For you, why do you think that run stands out in like just tapestry of hip hop kind of thing?
I think those particular 3 albums for them just capture a moment in time that is so important and is, to be frank, like when we first spoke about doing this, there are obviously other 3 album runs that stand out, and like, there's classics from the 80s and the 90s that a lot of them have already been taken, but also I think that as we move further, away from that era, and like we look at when The Listening came out, and that was, 2 decades ago, I think it's time that we really start giving artists from this era their props and recognize the contributions that they made. And for me, in my eyes, and I have a lot of bias in here as well that we will definitely get into, Little Brother just, I think, is one of the most important hip hop groups of the 21st century. I think that a lot of it is due to their influence and their contribution. I think a lot of it is just also, circumstantial, just being in the right place at the right time. For me, these albums, particularly the first two, and I think that there's also a case for the third as well, but all three of these albums really sort of drew a line in the sand. And I think while they weren't necessarily huge commercial successes, they influenced the shape of things to come in the hip hop landscape.
That's interesting. Unpack that a little bit for me then, because let's go back to 03, say turn of the century. Eminem's massive, DMX, obviously is huge, 50's coming out at this point. So the more kind of top level, commercial level of hip hop, it's everywhere at that point. What for you then does Little Brother bring in maybe into your rotation that others aren't maybe at that time? What was it for you then?
Well, I think first and foremost, the group was always very transparent about the fact, even through their name, that they were carrying the torch for a sound that had perhaps fallen by the wayside. These are, the descendants of a Native Tongues movement. They are the little brothers of A Tribe Called Quest, of De La Soul, of Jungle Brothers. Their origin, the sort of way in which they were presented to the world is via OK Player, which is an extension of the Roots. And, sort of want to say the group in between those classic Native Tongues and the Little Brothers of the world, the Mos Defs, the Talib Kweli's, the Commons, and it's interesting that the group would go on to work with so many of these people in the catalog.
Yeah.
But at the time, they were sort of revitalizing a sound that had fallen out of vogue, I would say. The sort of classic 90s sample-based stuff, their lyrics were very much like of everyman. They were not portraying some sort of, character that was very popular at the time. If you look at, what the landscape was, they weren't gangsters. They weren't talking about, drugs or violence or misogyny. He's, Phonte's name dropping that he's driving a Nissan, that is something that I think is notable.
Waste the time I can't afford, so if it ain't you, then I'm cooped up to record. I scoop you up in my Porsche, psych, I got a Nissan that I'm still paying for, still got a lease on, but it don't matter, cause that ain't my aim to get you. I got fame, but that just ain't the issue. They
didn't really invent a new sound, but it would also be sort of incorrect to label their music as throwback, because I really think that the execution, particularly of the listening, and I don't know if we want to get to that when we actually speak about the listening, but
for sure, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just want to talk about all of the things that they sort of brought to the table here and the way that they reinvented how hip hop was created and delivered. This was one of the first, hip hop albums to really find its legs on the sort of then burgeoning internet message boards.
Yeah.
You talk about the Eminems and the Jay-Z's. They were of a different ilk where they had already been presented to the world through more traditional channels. Whereas this was a record that really caught fire on the internet and became a thing that was word of mouth. And, they reference it even later on the Minstrel Show. They made a classic album that motherfuckers couldn't find,
Yeah.
I went from niggas telling me I really shouldn't rhyme to dropping the classic album motherfuckers couldn't find. Took my respect, took lessons, and took the time. And if you want a success story, just take a look at mine.
But the spirit of that definitely made it, to my knowledge, one of the first hip hop albums of the internet era in that sense.
100%.
Adjacent to that, you got to remember again, and it's hard because we're almost 20 years removed now. This was a big deal to people that Ninth Wonder was making beats on a laptop, or not even a laptop. He was making it on a desktop computer. Wow. It's hard to sort of, recognize that now because computers have become so integrated into the world and how music production is. But people were skeptical that how is he doing this? He's using a computer. That's not hip hop.
Yeah.
That sounds insane now. It sounds insane that would be any sort of vulnerability or any sort of hole in the legitimacy of the group.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the lyrics, everybody is talking about right now, or, whenever this podcast is going to come out, we won't be too far removed from it. Kanye is very much back in the zeitgeist because of this Netflix documentary, which really hammers in the whole idea that he was this everyman and that he was, the mix of he was bringing to the rock the raucous, aesthetic. And that he wasn't a character and he was being vulnerable and sort of repping for regular people. That's what Phonte and Pooh were doing on this record as well. And Kanye worked with Little Brother very early in their careers as well. So for all of those reasons, I just think that in time, and, I think we are approaching the years now where they will really be heralded for all of their influence. Also, Drake singing rap. It's so they're so foundational in the landscape that it's easy to overlook these really blatant things because they just become so ingratiated in what we understand rap music to be today.
Yeah, you broke that down. So many threads to pull on in that just outlay of what they are. Like, you're so right. 20 years, inherently in their DNA, they're never going to be forgotten because they were birthed out of it was almost organic. It was an organic growth for them. So if you're a super fanatic of Little Brother, I can exactly see why. They are talking to you about everyday shit. Like you said, they are taking stuff from the 90s. They've got a lot of J Dilla influence in there. They're flipping them soul samples. But I think that their X factor is that they do that, but they put this twist on it where they add massive thread of humor, a massive thread of knowingness. They know who they are. Like, they'll address the issues. Like Ninth Wonder, you've got to switch up the drums later in your career. That's one of the shit they were saying to him. They address it. Pooh, people think I'm not as good as, Phonte, bang, he addresses it. They have this honesty in them, which adds to that integrity. And I think that as other artists of the 90s may have got forgotten, like Curious, and, there are people out there that we have to make sure they're documented. I don't have that worry with Little Brother because it was word of mouth when I heard from them. I heard from a friend, he brought Minstrel Show to me. When I heard Minstrel Show and I went back to listening, how have I missed this? So yeah, no, I absolutely love that. Yo, just interrupting this episode to hit you up about our Patreon, a place where you can support the show, get even more dope rap chat from us, help us grow and bring more of this rap nerdiness for your ears. Check out patreon.com or crate808.com for hours and hours worth of bonus monthly episodes for as little as buying the crew lunch every month. You have got on there a stacked Wu-Tang Clan series going through every single solo member's catalogue from Ghostface Killer and Raekwon all the way to Jizza and ODB, and honestly it's some of the best rap discussion on the Wu out there, so do peep that. Also, once a month we bring you episodes on MF Doom and J Dilla, as well as reviews on noughties classics like Deltron 3030, Stillmatic, Stankonia, The Ecstatic and so many more. We even dig back into the 90s rap golden era and unearth some hidden gems that deserve more love. Big up the likes of Diamond D, The Lynch Mob, Godfather Don, Funk Dubious and more. Also, whilst we're here, we want to ask one more favour from you. If you could please rate and review the show on any podcast platform, and also vote on the polls on Spotify. If you scroll down from the episode description, it all helps us grow. Also, you can subscribe now via Spotify or Apple, so please do click subscribe as well. And another thing, check out our Spotify playlist. It's in the show notes. Our favourite current songs are all there for you, so please get involved in any way you can and help us grow this show. Now let's get back to the regular programming. And their legacy, wow, let's talk about that singing, because is Phonte the best rapper singer? Because I can't think of an argument against that.
I think not only is he the best rapper singer, but in my mind, he's just one of the best rappers. Yes. He's in my top 5 for sure, as far as currently active MCs go. Yeah, I think that part of that is his pen, his acumen as a rapper, and the patterns, and his writing is just, it can be very impressive on the level that you would compare him to. I don't want to get like lambasted for this, but like a Pharoah Monch or somebody who like is very intricate. You can tell they've really mastered the skill of putting words together that rhyme, which is what rapping is, but does it on an exceptional level. But to speak to the point that you raised earlier, and what the whole group sort of had, was that integrity and that honesty that I also think makes it age very well. Again, if you look at a lot of the records of I wouldn't even say their peers, but the people that were really dominating music in a more popular, grander scale at the time, a lot of that works on a nostalgic level, but it's not necessarily all stuff that resonates as well today. And I think that they've made music. I think that they also really were very mature early on, and they have sort of continued to do that even with their last record, the May the Lord Watch, presented a very honest and mature, this is what hip hop, is in your 40s. And I think that they even still encapsulated that perspective, because the music that they were putting out in their 20s is something that doesn't really have a lot of cringe in it. There might be a couple of like pop culture references that, in 20 years from now, some might not understand, but for the most part, it's still pretty honest and it still holds up. And I think that that is also a bit of, a rarity. You mentioned like Eminem earlier. I'm not here to like shit on Eminem, but that's not music that I think. I'll say this: if you were really into Eminem 20 years ago and you're still just as into Eminem now in the same way, I question where you are in your life. I question maybe if there's some growing that you should or could do.
Do you know what? Just as a little sidestep into Eminem world, we'll definitely get out of it really quickly. But in this little world, because we are tackling that 3-album run of Eminem, and I do find, what it is completely more than hardly any other run. It is. As soon as you dip back in and you close all the doors and you're in Eminem world and you're back in 99 to 2002, 2003, I do recapture that kind of, holy fuck, that was the zeitgeist. If you were alive at that time and you were listening to it real time, you remember, that was what 2000 was like. But I agree with you on the fact that they are talking about more timeless things. It felt like their music in a rotation of a very hyper masculine, obviously, world in hip hop. And when you listen to Little Brother and they're singing about love and family and about things that maybe a group of guys don't really talk about, and put in singy choruses.
And it wasn't pandering. That's what's like important to sort of identify, that it never felt like a move where, we're going to do a love song for the ladies. It wasn't. It was masculine, and it is masculine, but I think that they just had the intention and the honesty to be able to explore routes that the sort of more well-known version of masculinity would be, hey, you can't go down that road. But they were like, no, fuck it. We can definitely go down this road. And this is something that can be talked about and cannot be, we're not going to make it corny. We're not going to be pandering. And we can still explore these avenues of what the human experience is through hip hop.
Yeah. Human experience is exactly it. They are one of the most human groups in hip hop. They are more attainable. They are more relatable. Rakim is a god. Like, when you see Rakim, he should be like a pharaoh. Like, these guys, although they are incredible, even when we had Big Rapper Pooh on the show, and I was thinking, I wonder how it's going to go. And it felt like that. It felt like, shit, you are just a fan, but you're great at what you do. And that is another big thing, right? You can fanboy out all you want. And I'm sure you're the same as me. Wherever you grew up, there was an independent hip hop scene. And when you went to see these open mics or these local cats to like really support the locals, a lot of it was fanboying what you love. They have that, but yet they turn it into something completely unique. It's really odd that they make it look so easy, I suppose. That's the weird thing, is that Phonte just makes it sound easy. Like, I'm just fucking good at this. There you go. Do you know what I mean? So we are going to go into the listening. First of all, do you remember the moment you heard the listening for the first time, or was it in your rotation? You kind of went back.
Yeah, I heard it pretty early on. I was definitely a frequenter of the OK Player message board, specifically the lessons. So I was aware of them. And I think that if my memory serves me correct, it was Questlove from The Roots posting about it and doing a review, and he was one of the early adopters and sort of champions of the album. So when I had maybe I had clicked a song or seen like their names, because all of the members, specifically Phonte and Ninth Wonder, I know Pooh did as well, but I remember Phonte and Ninth being more active on the lesson message boards. So I was sort of familiar with who they were. But again, in this early stage, it was just like, well, these aren't, quote unquote artists. These are just, people that are in the same boat as I am, just, fans of music, and they make music too. I make music too, whatever. Like I might check it, I might not. But I think for so many, once, Questlove endorsed it, it was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. So I believe that I ordered it from hiphopsite.com, or it might have been Sandbox Automatic, one of these, treasure troves of, it was the plug to get music. If you didn't have access, locally, you would order through these online sites. And I got the listening sent to me. It was probably later in 03, maybe in 04, but I think it was 03. And that to me was, it's so immersive, and it just hits you immediately, and takes a little bit of adjusting, because I didn't really know what to expect when I listened to it. And, it starts off with that intro, and they sort of set the tone right away.
WJLR. Bam. The future of hip hop.
Yo, WJLR, Justice League Radio. Good morning. It's your boy Sean Don, the back twister, holding it down right now. You know what I'm saying? Tonight at the Hideaway, my boys, little brother, Big Pooh, Phonte, and Ninth Wonder, they doing their thing.
Definitely a throwback to the De La school of skits, and somehow did like skits and interludes and never corny. Like even up to, in an age, again, specifically, we're talking about the turn of the century, early 2000s. We were collectively waiting for a playlist or MP3 era where we could be very surgical in removing things from the albums. Yeah. Or to go off on another tangent, how great would Life After Death by Notorious B.I.G. be if we were able to separate, love the Mad Rapper skit. Love it. Do I want to hear it every time I want to hear Kicking the Door? Do I want to wait a minute and 25 seconds before that DJ Premier beat drops in? Not necessarily.
This is my 4th album, yo. This is my 4th album. I ain't made a dime yet. This nigga made 1 album. He making wild records. That Ready to Die shit, it was alright. You know what I'm saying? That shit was alright. It was cool. But my shit's more John Blaze than that.
So, first of all, shout out to Little Brother for making the skits all separate tracks. Boom. So if you want an option, you could, but you wouldn't even need to. Like, all of them really were funny and clever, and they had personality, and really added to that listening experience.
Ninth Wonder, what's up, brother? Yeah, what's up? I heard that Little Brothers, that shit sound pretty good right there. Look here, now I'm sitting down here with this Korg Triton. I got a boom in the back. Just won't go bip for me. God damn it, motherfucker. Won't you go on and don't you do a little something for me?
I can't do that. We trying to do this.
Come on, now look, now you know, look, I'd hate to go out there and rob some old jazz singer for one of their old beats, but I do it. Hey, you know I do it.
So yeah, just diving in and exploring this, and like kind of realizing, okay, there's 2 rappers in this group, and okay, so like they each are coming from a different perspective, and they've got like, their different style, and like it's weird to start a record off with a Pooh solo joint, the groupie part 2, and that you're just listening like, well, wait, this is part 2. Where's part 1?
Part 1, yeah.
Group, like, am I supposed to know about part 1?
Yeah.
And so sort of getting acclimated there, and then For You and Speed, those early tracks, and you're just like, oh, this is crazy.
Now for the low price of only $8.99, witness Phonte slice of phony and spit a rhyme that'll settle your bets in 30 measures or less. I stay ahead of the rest with incredible text. We fire off like it's New Year's Eve. Pooh is here for suck MCs. This year I made it hard to breathe. I'm the shit, so your squad can't leave. Gotta wait until applaud in the club, standing tall like trees, making the crowd shit. Yo, check it, another database. I'm sharecropping in this paper chase. Take a deep breath and clear my database. It's afternoon, I'm talking shit to my alarm clock, cause I gotta face this world of capitalistic onslaught. Don't stop when I jump in the whip, trying to get it off. Beltline got me rushing like Barishnikov, pushing 80 miles an hour to this call center, trying to pick up a check. I only see 20% of.
This is something that I missed, something that I was missing, and I'm glad that I'm getting more of it now,
Yeah, 100%. I just want to jump in there. First of all, we have a category 5 mic moments, which are like moments of perfection on the album. Classic albums have numerous moments. The skits, I'm going to say 5 mic because at that time, I even thought, are they comedians? Because it was that high caliber. It was that good. It was like a comedy album. It was like a Richard Pryor album. It was like the George Carlin or something. They've really put effort and time and like really thought on where we're going to place these things. They do it on Get Back as well. They do moments where you're like, oh, what was that? I think it might actually be on Dreams, where at the end of Dreams, they have this moment where they're like, oh, they don't play you in LA? Word. Then you go to North Carolina. Actually, you have a point there. And then it switches off halfway through the skit. It's very knowing, very surgical, very highly produced bits.
Little brother, I heard y'all ain't hitting in New York. Word. I heard y'all ain't hitting in L.A. Word. I heard y'all ain't hitting in North Carolina. Word. I don't know. Actually, you might got a point.
But that leads me on to one word that I don't think people associate with Little Brother that much. They call it independent, or like you said, on the message boards, having a very organic growth base. But for me, it's punk. Punk music is Little Brother, because when you look at their setup for the listening, that viral tweet that went around, was it last year or so? And I think it might have been Joe Scudder had put up the image of like a mattress with like a chair. I'm sure you remember it. And I'm like, that's what punk bands do though. That's why they are in a level that's different to other people like Tribe, Della, Wu-Tang. Although Wu-Tang were very punk, it's not unattainable. They're 9 gods on mics. Like no one can sound like that. Whereas with Phonte, he sounds natural. Night sounds so incredible, but they're doing it there. And you think, shit, maybe we could do this. Like, I don't know, it just feels more attainable. And that's not diminishing their actual artistry. It's just the way they came across and everything. And the way these things were made. Like you watch the listening doc and it's incredible. But I had those moments then, these little categories, like most rewindable moments. I've said 5 mics, hidden gems maybe on the album that you think maybe deserve a bit more shine and people don't, give it enough shine.
Yeah, I mean, as far as hidden gems, I took notes, so
let's go. Prepared. I'm here for notes.
Yeah. So hidden gems, I think that the listening is a hidden gem, maybe to the layman, hip hop listener. But if you're already aware of the album, for me, one that is a highlight that I don't necessarily always hear talked about is the track, The Get Up, which is actually, incidentally, the only song that Ninth Wonder did not produce on the album. That was produced by Eccentric, who was a homie of theirs, and collaborator who I think soon after left music, and I believe he became an attorney or something.
No way.
So I love that beat.
Y'all can't do it like Tay do it. I can't stop, won't stop like a Ford Explorer without the brake fluid. Spinning out on 5 stones with the shake to it, leaving all the passengers with scrape bruises. My rap style niggas take to it. Me and Pooh sick of eating noodles. This year we finna add a steak to it and wild out with our hands in the air now. And smack these funny niggas giving us the stare down and get up on these fly chicks with their hair down, looking like the sweetest candy apples at the fairgrounds. And it's just the way we do this. So if you wanna hear some new shit, what you got to do is get up. Come on, man, get up.
I remember seeing them perform that in like 2003 when they were touring the listening. I saw them open for Hieroglyphics on the Full Circle tour.
Oh,
that was the first like national tour that Little Brother had done, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And it's just a super hard beat. It's sparse. It's a pretty simple one. It just has these sort of horn-like stabs. And to me, it's just a great example of the chemistry that Phonte and Pooh had together. Granted, it doesn't represent the 9th part of the equation or the pie because he didn't produce it. But, it's not far off. It wasn't them branching out for a different type of sound. It's very much a Ninth Wonder-ish beat. It's a Little Brother-ish beat. So that to me, I think, is one that is a hidden gem that I feel like people should revisit if you don't instantly hear this and hear the sample and the lyrics in your head right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. Get Up. I thought the Get Up, I don't know, it's really odd because it reminds me, it has these kind of residual effects of almost electronic music. It's weird. It's the synths that they use in that, and it has, but I do, and it's a standout track. And kind of odd that Night didn't do the whole album, but big. I did not know about Eccentric, so big up to Eccentric on that.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is DJ Premier, and you're checking out the Crate 808 podcast.
Hey, yo, this your boy Foul March, and right now, you are rocking live with the Crate 808 podcast.
Yo, what's up? This is Del, the funky homo sapien, down with hieroglyphics, the funk pimp. Come on here for some good shit.
Yes, you're rocking with the best. This is the one and only Just Blaze. Right now, you're checking out the Crate 808 podcast.
This is Open Mike Equal, and you are currently rocking with the Crate 808 podcast.
Yo, peace and love to this homeboy Sandman, and you're rocking with the Crate 808 podcast. It's the place to be. So good for you.
Hey, what's happening? This is Trevor Nelson, your R&B ambassador, talking all things R&B and hip hop on the Crate 808 podcast.
Hey, yo, check it out. This is the rapper Big Pooh, and I need you, and you to make sure you check out this week's episode of the Crate 808 podcast. Tell everybody the rapper says so.
Yo, just interrupting this brilliant conversation with Sean to bring in a rap historian, author, writer. I've called him the Hip Hop Matrix before because he is that. Dart Adams is in the house to bring his thoughts on why not just only this 3-album run, but Little Brother as a group are elite.
The interesting thing about Little Brother is that they have 2 great 3-album runs, and they've only made 5 studio albums. Whether we're talking about the Listening, the Minstrel Show, and to Get Back, or Get Back, Left Back, into the May the Lord Watch, either way you slice it, they've made timeless material, and they've established what it meant to be a group that grew up and evolved with the times. Phonte, of course, he split his task between writing rhymes and singing, and we must not forget that the rapper Big Pooh is one of the most overlooked and underappreciated MCs, both for his work with Little Brother and his solo work, which is also stellar. Of course, Phonte went off and co-founded Foreign Exchange Music, but also at the same time, we have classic material from both members. And when they come back together in 2019, May the Lord Watch, it was just like getting on a bike, It doesn't matter how long it's been, you still remember what to do. And they did it at a high level. So when we talk about longevity, greatness, being versatile, what have you, representing the South, anything, just being older MCs, Little Brother has it all.
Can we talk about one thing that I love that's tied into the humor, but also like Atari 2600? People need to talk about this track more, just for the impressions.
Yo, Ruler Zigzag Ziggalar coming on to y'all Zigwizard, you know what I'm saying? Yo, I'm seeing a lot of y'all digital niggas out there. Yo, it's time to get analog. Y'all get your PlayStation 2s, you know what I'm saying? Your Dreamcast and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? But y'all forgetting the original article, you know what I'm saying? Original articles that are Atari 2600, you know what I'm saying? 2600 is the tool, is the key to help teach the children. Yo, Jeffrey, come on, Atari 2600.
That's, again, another thing we would do as mates, as hip-hop heads, as hip-hop geeks. When you go to the pub or you've gone to a gig, someone will end up doing an impression of RZA. And these are the things that were so like, oh, that's just like us. And then just referencing Atari 2600 stuff, they stick to the concept. Like they do it in the Minstrel Show, where they'll do like Cheaters, which is like a concept and a real takedown of people like R. Kelly.
How could you do this to me after all these years? Girl, I don't know what in the fuck you think this is. Always trying to play around and tell lies while you are not at home. Sorry, girl, you busted now. I saw the number on your cell phone. You cheating. You was cheating. Yes, you was. Caught you creeping. Yes, I did. To the window, to the wall, skeeting.
And make it, like, really stick to it and really follow through. And I love that about Atari 2600 because it still makes me laugh. It still does.
Yeah. And I guess in hindsight, if people were paying attention, because the Atari 2600 track was from The Story of Us, which was a project that Phonte did with Eccentric prior to Listening, if I'm not mistaken, but obviously was far less promoted and known about. It was that was a comedy album. So if you were paying attention, it wouldn't have been a surprise that The Listening was funny. I think I wound up hearing The Story of Us after The Listening, because at that point I was like, well, now I need to hear anything that these guys are involved with. I'll also say that, like, I'm happy to be covering these 3 albums, but it almost feels like we're shortchanging. The group put out many amazing mixtapes that were basically albums. You know, there might have been a few tracks where they were rapping over popular beats or other people's beats, but they really put out, you know, the in-betweens, the Separate But Equal, and the Chitlin Circuit 1.5.
You just gon' gain all that weight on me now. No. Yeah, if I ain't a player, then what the hell you call that? Nigga disrespect me, I'ma be in all black. Baby, if you let me, I'ma take it all back.
Phonte, 5-star, still a bliss. Females, I hit them with deliberate styles for me to try to lay with them. And then chill around the way with them like her name was Lisa, Angela, Pamela, Renee, and them. Respect game. When it come to my ex things, I keep them in line like rollerblades at the X Games. Phonte never was the type to kirk out of stretch things till the album dropped. Now you thinking my rep changed. Look,
I got the heart of a lion, eye of the tiger. 20/20 vision, watching shit transpire. Non-perishable, my records don't expire. I'm that blue flame if we speaking on fires. Roll like Maya, burn like Naya. Sin, feeling froggy, well try me then. I'm a cold motherfucker with a leaky pen. Don't be confused cause you seen me grin. Take 2 to the chin, I've been writing rap words.
And then the Injustice for All mixtapes are basically Little Brother albums. But if we're going to stick and adhere to the classic definition, they are mixtapes, and, you know, they must be categorized as such. But yeah. It was a great time to be a fan of a very prolific group during these years.
So prolific, absolutely. And the Chitlin Circuit 1.5 is unbelievable. But my Chitlin Circuit as well, you're right. They had this consistency to them, which is kind of seeps into these albums. There is a consistency to 1 and 2. The first 2 albums, it feels like they're just, you know, when someone's in the zone, it's like, yeah, these guys are just in the zone, and everything they're doing right now is just smashing. Another one which I thought was amazing, which is The Way You Do It. The Way You Do It is just, I love that. I love that song.
Took the stage like a jet soaring, wilding out with the sweat pouring, till I woke up hoarse the next morning. And ill feeling that it brings about to see niggas mouthing your words and you ain't even got a single out. On stage filling your spot, it's the equivalent of 10 adrenaline shots, just like Legacy and Sean Wood when they killing the rock. Ain't gotta worry about if niggas just pretending it's hot, cause I can see their hands in the air waving, heads bobbing, necks snapping back and forth, about to break that shit. Man, I appreciate that shit. Thanks for showing us love, and to the top we finna take that shit.
I thought there was moments in this. I think The Dream Merchant as well is another track that sticks out.
Down the system cash, made this hip hop a way of the past, and I'm supposed to be glad. Suckers like you was a dime a dozen, and they be rhyming cause of you lying, cousin. Mike Thug and getting a rep, and I helped you out. Favors your spout, but now the people tired as hell. Not in all of the gun talk. Now learn 999,000 ways to make your whole body part from your soul that I control. Mr. Dream Merchant wins is how the story is told. I'm Mr. Dream Merchant. I sell dreams, I sell schemes.
And I suppose if you don't like Little Brother, this is one of the things that you could probably say about them, that they could easily have come across as a group that kind of has a gripe with hip hop, right? Like they kind of talk about issues of hip hop in that moment and what's real, what's not real. But I was thinking at that time though, it never felt like to me that hip hop was on the ropes. It didn't. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was what I was listening to, but like at the time, I mean, Kanye was out just a bit later. Raucous was still like kind of big in my rotation, but you had Dilla, Roots, and you know Doom, Madlib. You had all these people doing stuff in 02, 03, and I always thought, I don't know what you think to that, but I never thought it was as down as, maybe it's where they were from, maybe it was the South, maybe, I don't know, but what do you think?
Well, I think that it is, in hindsight, very true that there was always a lot of great stuff that was happening. But I think that we have to also acknowledge what was very popular. It's one thing for MF Doom to be recording and putting out records, or, you know, the Raucous guys who were putting out records. But if you look at the pie of what hip hop was, it still represented a rather small slice. So I do think that the reason that the group may have had a bit of the chip on their shoulder, first of all, that only comes, I think, from 2 things. One, it's the, you know, the drive that we all feel in our teens and 20s to be very opinionated and outspoken about things, because that's sort of defining and how we're relating to the world, but also it comes from the fact that they all really loved hip hop. So, and they loved a specific kind of hip hop. So while, yes, it's easier to look in broad strokes in hindsight to be like, well, there was the Native Tongues era, and then there was more commercial music in the 90s, and then there was the raucous, and then all this great underground stuff. There's a lot of stuff that was happening where I think that it definitely seemed at the turn of the 2000s that all that native tongue shit was dead. Even, we could look at like 1996, the divide in the road between like The Stakes is High to It Was Written by Nas, sort of being that fork in the road. And I think even the more commercial music that had sort of usurped the airwaves and the popularity in pop culture, even that music was kind of falling by the wayside. And, this is like, we're sort of starting to enter into the Laffy Taffy era. And, a lot music that I think is probably not the music that you didn't like in whatever years of your, formative years is never as bad when you go back and revisit it now. I would gladly listen to bad boy records that perhaps I didn't really love at the time. I'll gladly listen to that now. If I'm listening to it and it comes on, it's like, oh yes, this is great. But I think that the perspective, and I can't really speak for them, but as a fan and as a listener, I think that it just sort of, that chip came from the fact that they were very cognizant of the fact that things were becoming a little unbalanced, perhaps. And in the Minstrel Show, we see that even more, where they're really speaking on it and being very critical of it. And did that, sort of pointed criticism work? Maybe, maybe not. I think that in listening and hearing the group sort of dissect how that record was digested, maybe they don't feel that it was a totally successful endeavor. But I think that perspective definitely comes from the fact that things were starting to feel that there was a shift and it wasn't being quite as even.
Yeah. No, good way to put it, quite as even. I think that's it. I think looking back on it, it does feel a bit different. But at the time, you needed then checks and balances in hip hop as well. There was constant checks and balances from either your friends or other people and other hip hop peers. So yeah, absolutely. Before we move into the Minstrel Show though, because that is a lot of people call it a classic now, and people call the listening a classic as well. I think the Minstrel Show seems to be everyone's go-to that I know. But there were 2 or 3 tracks I want to talk about on the listening. On Nighttime Maneuvers, right? First of all, Nighttime Maneuvers, that 30 seconds they end with, people who listen to the show know I love those little flourishes in tracks. And I wish I could just have a playlist of just those 2-3 second, Dilla, Madlib, Knowledge does it, like, people like that, just those little seconds. So those 30 seconds on Nighttime Maneuvers is incredible. But it's Phonte. He's hard as fuck. Like when you listen to him, you think Little Brother could be, I don't know, it's horrible to say, but like a softer sound. But no, he's there. His lines on that are incredible about like Heineken's and when is Tay gonna rhyme again? Like the way he lays that all down is just like incredible.
Hey yo, it's the new flavor. The next step, Phonte, best kept secrets is the AIDS cure. I stay raw, what did they bootlegger to pay for? Old school like Prince Deja, when he was hosting Rap City with finger waves on. I put my name on the map through dismantling embarrassing arrogant cats and battling because their raps ain't astonishing. Got niggas in the club spitting out their Heinekens. Like goddamn it, when that nigga take him rhyme again, he nice with the homonyms. Ill flow, I guess I got it from my mama now.
But I wanted to big up Away From Me, because at that time, I don't think Away From Me hit me really at all. I was 22. I listen to it now and I'm like, oh, like this is the dad rap. Like horrible to put it in any category like that. But it's the only thing, as a dad, I listen to Away From Me now and it's one of my favorite dad rap songs.
What the deal, baby? I'm still here, still crazy. I'm real sorry we ain't had a chance to chill lately or even talk as often now. Congratulations, they telling me you almost walking now. Roads of life finally crossing now. Can't wait to get you back to NC so we can all get down and get real tight. Have you dressed up, rocking the ill
real night. Show you what a father is supposed to feel like. It's been nights that I wake up thinking that I hear you. Back in my mind start feeling fearful, thinking if the words I say are really getting to you. And when I hold you in my arms, if my face look familiar to you, that shit be killing me, dude. I pray that your eyes remember me. Black and white is all you can see in infancy. And eventually I have you on some comfortable shit. 2-parent income, clearing Cliff Huxtable shit.
So I just wanted to shout that out because I think, again, timelessness comes in because these guys are talking about life. And you may not hit that milestone till you're 20 years down the line, but the listening is here to go there. What did you think then, Sean, to Doja Cat reciting whatever you say, just casually as she's doing her makeup?
Fuck that, I got your head still bobbing in my birthday. Hey, yo, that's alright, girl, whatever you say.
That's the best, bruh. That's one of my favorite verses in the entire fucking history of rap ever. That shit was so smooth. He didn't rhyme one fucking word. I don't care what anybody says. Maybe the last bar. He said personal time and verse didn't rhyme. That was the only thing he rhymed together. The whole rest of that verse was not rhymed. Nothing, not one fucking rhyming thing. But it worked. It worked. You don't have to rhyme. You don't have to fucking... No, one more time.
Niggas used to pay the background. You know, clean cut, soft spoken, well dressed, dipped out, straight chillin' when I'm in the club, yo. Sipping the Sprite with the ill lemon mixed in and sipping on it. I was just chillin' till I saw you.
What did you think to that?
I mean, I think I was as floored as everybody else was about that, but it really just goes to show you, it proves the point that I was making earlier, that their influence was very deep. And it also sort of speaks to the fact, look, if we're gonna marvel at the fact that these guys in Little Brother were so multifaceted and they could, you know, be like super like lyrical rhymers, but also speak about, you know, personal issues and you know, topics of vulnerability, then we also need to lend that same credit to Doja Cat, who some people might know as just being, you know, a pop singer, pop act, or a rapper, which she is also a very capable rapper if you listen to her music. Yeah, like we contain multitudes, and you know, especially in the shadow of the iPod era or the, you know, playlist era, it's like we all listen to a lot of shit. I just told you earlier that, like, you know, I was prepared to talk about these Little Brother albums, and I've also been working on my folk finger picking, you know, on so it was surprising to see, but also really dope that somebody who has the platform that she has and all the eyes that she has at this moment in her career would take that moment to really shout out a group, again, like this song, not a single, from an album that was not very easy to find and is sort of, again, that underground underdog sort of status classic. Mm-hmm. I thought it was amazing. And to see Phonte and her have a bit of an exchange back and forth on Twitter was also really dope. Like, yeah. Look, anything that will get more people to listen to Little Brother, you know, I have no stake in Little Brother. I'm not getting residuals on this, but I am all for, you know, the movement of more people do great music.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that I know people who listen to this podcast know, there are people out there who think hip hop should be in parameters. You know, you check things off on a list. It's like almost like an algebra formula. There's a formula to it. And what I love about that video is that there really isn't a fucking formula to it, because Doja Cat even puts it out there. He rhymes not one word until the end of that verse. And people who are out there, and we know a few who have been on this show, are like, no, has to rhyme. It's like, does it? It doesn't have to rhyme. Do you know what I mean?
I think that if you want to make very formulaic music, then you should definitely follow a formula. I think otherwise, it's important to know the rules. There's no way you could listen to their music and say that they don't understand the parameters. But there's a difference between understanding and being dogmatic to said parameters. So you got to know the rules so you know when to break them. And that's why that verse is incredible, because it's very dope. He's rapping his ass off on it. And the first time that I heard it, it's not like within the second bar, I was like, oh, well, he's not rhyming. I just was so caught up in it. The beat is so dope, you know, the words that he's saying. And then at the end, it's like the reveal. It's like the M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end. Like, I got your head still bobbing and my verse didn't rhyme. It's like, wait, what? That to me is a rewind moment, because then you have to go back. You're like, wait, did he not rhyme? And then you go back and you listen, you're like, yo, he didn't rhyme. But my head was bobbing. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's when my heart stopped. Knees gave, head sweating, jaws locked. I was sweating you like, God damn, girl. You got a nigga going fuck wild, mesmerized, starstruck. I was thinking maybe we can go out, like to the movies or the Applebee's, Blockbuster, State Fair. But you looked at me and said, fuck that. You just a herb with no money and no Jeep and no condo. And I thought the little brother had a record deal. Okay, I see where you're going now. Wanna sweat a nigga when you think he got a cash advance and some personal time. But fuck that, I got your head still bobbing in my verse to end rhyme. So it's whatever, that's alright, girl.
Absolutely. But again, that knowingness, that they're very clever, very, very clever trio. Now, before we get into the second album in this run, The Minstrel Show, and trust me, we do get into that, I've got my man, Nate LeBlanc from Dad Bod Rap Pod. If you're not listening to that podcast, please rectify that immediately. Go check that crew out. They are always bringing the heat. And just an example of that is Nate's thoughts on Little Brother, this album run, and why Phonte is just so special.
Little Brother is an act that I consider to be an overground hip-hop act. Like, they have a kind of an underground hip-hop aesthetic and at the beginning of their career distribution model, but they've reached a level of success that's slightly more than that. They've done the major label thing, they've done the independent thing, they've been all over the map, kind of like a Blackalicious, if you will, from North Carolina instead of the Bay Area. Phonte is just an incredible musician, personality, and rapper Big Pooh should not be left out of these conversations. He's not just the other guy. He's an incredible rhymer in his own sense. He has a strong sense of who he is, and he has like a real, like a regular guy rap that has transcended into something bigger than that. But to me, the highlight of Little Brother is Phonte as a personality. We had him on the show, and he's just so funny, and he's such a deep music nerd, and his he's the Andy Richter or the Ed McMahon on the Questlove Supreme podcast, and he's just so funny and gregarious, but then he's also an incredible musician. His singing work is well respected. His rapping is often top notch. It's hard to find better verses than his. And to me, Little Brother is a huge success story that kind of came out of the OK Player universe and transcended into something different, and that it kind of gave the world Phonte Coleman as a personality. So always indebted to that. And, you know, their newer music is still really good. They're still operating at a very high level. And the fact that they've kind of drifted apart at times and come back together at times is just a testament to they have something special, something greater than the sum of their parts when they come together as a group.
So when we then go in 05, The Minstrel Show, a lot of stuff has happened for the group in between. For you, what is the key differences in their sound, maybe in their approach, maybe them as an artists from the listening to The Minstrel Show?
So what's interesting is that I don't really think that there is much of a difference. I think that what is sort of remarkable about that chapter of their story is that they made this fabled leap from, you know, underdog sort of independent underground artists, and they were able to snatch the dangling carrot of quote unquote mainstream success and major label recognition, and they essentially did nothing different. They had a music video that looked better than the music video for Speed, which I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's not a good looking music video. But you know, they had a polished video for Lovin' It, and yeah, I mean, they had features. They had like Elzai on the record. Jay Dilla was supposed to be on that record, Hiding Place, and you know, Pooh shouts him out in the beginning, but he wasn't due to what was going on in Dilla's life at that time.
My peers ferocious, I'm so focused, and I pray to God that the world knows this exposes flaws in your scheme, dog. Me and Dilla go hard, my lord. You don't want no problems. I'm a nigga that'll solve them.
But you know, it's been pointed out by many people before, so I'm not the first to say it. They put Joe Scudda on their lead single on their album From Atlantic. So to me, it's not that it necessarily represented a big shift in a change in sound. It was more so that they really dug their heels in and they were like, this is who we are. This is what it's going to be. When I first met Little Brother, I was in college, probably a year before The Minstrel Show came out, and I was in a student organization, a hip hop organization, and I was tasked with booking concerts that would be free to the students. So I obviously took this, plentiful budget that a university had, and I booked Little Brother to do the show. And that was when I first met them, and I picked them up from the airport. And, this was the beginning of my connection, really mostly with Phonte, is who I've stayed, in touch with. And Ninth wasn't touring with a group at this time. Ninth was, I believe, actually around this time, probably working on the Black Album with Jay-Z. But I remember sitting in my Honda Civic car and Phonte being like, "You want to hear the new album?" And I was like, yeah. And he played me what I believe was pretty damn near finished, the Minstrel Show. So I remember listening to that on like a CDR, in my car, and just being like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
For the fans and for everybody who it was significant that Little Brother was signing to a major label was definitely along for the ride. So the excitement was very much that one of our own was now ascending and all was right in the world. There was justice, in this world where, again, the first album was speaking so much to perhaps the imbalance and them saying that people weren't listening, that fans weren't listening, that, the appreciation for lyrics and this sort of subsection of hip hop that they were making was out of favor. It felt like such a huge fucking W that they were now signing, and they had made it to the promised land. And there's like an ad lib on one of the songs on the Minstrel Show where like, sigh of relief because we're finally signed.
You make me wanna say it again. You make me wanna say it again. Now bring it back. Getting what's finally mine. Yeah, sigh of relief because we finally signed. Come on.
And say it again. And like, it just felt like, again, I think that was something that was very exceptional that the three of them were able to do also, was make their experience feel very shared. So that if you were a Little Brother fan, it was very hard to be a casual fan. You were very invested and you were super into their journey and felt like you were along for the ride with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just sort of was like the version 2 of what they had already set up. It was like, hey, there's still going to be skits. It's more of a narrative. I guess, there's like a concept album theme that runs through there. There's humor. There's, you're getting your solo tracks with the members, Ninth Wonder production, tracks that people thought Ninth did that he didn't do as well. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Crisis did a track or two on there.
LB business. Yeah. I go by the name of Crisis. We're half of the away team. And right now, you in tune to the biggest colored show on earth. The Minstrel Show, nigga. I can't afford to not record, so I call my nigga Crisis, tell him hit the boards. Then I call Tay, put the pedal to the floor. Before we do the shop, gotta stop by the store. I'm on my knees, gotta go to the Lord. Dear Father, I pray to you, these niggas gon' pay for it.
It seemed like we're taking the formula and like we're not gonna mess with the sauce here. Like, you guys, this is what you like. Here it is. Big deal.
You just put it there about 2.0. It does feel like, let's take everything we've got, widen the scope a little bit, put a few more voices in there, but essentially this is what you're going to get. And I think that just the artwork for it, I remember that was the first thing that struck me. Again, it was my intro to the group. And I'm kind of glad it was just the CD handed to me rather than hearing about the BET stuff, hearing about the Source stuff. I don't know what was on my radar at the time. I'd not even seen the Source drama. People dig into it, but it does, should have got an extra mic. I think got 4.5 in the end, that kind of thing. And people were like losing jobs over this shit. And this is the interesting thing about what kind of almost like it became bigger than the album in a weird way. Like it became about, this is a moment in hip hop. What are we going to do? We're going to have Benzino do 5-page spread made men 5 mic albums, or are we okay with this is the new era? It's almost like, actually, if you think about it, it is like the print era dying and the web era, the blog era just being like, no, this is the real shit, and the print era not being able to keep up. And it never really has been able to keep up. But that's, again, what they do really well is signify that time of the blog era. Like, yeah, this is, you could be held up. And then you have 6 years later, like Marsberg, and then you have people like Carr who almost, are so funded by that. But I was going to jump into that artwork. Sorry, I was saying, yeah, it felt so blatant. Like, it was like they were working on a Monty Python level of satire. Like, to me, it was like, holy shit, this is, I don't know if you know Chris Morris, but Chris Morris did Brass Eye over here, he was like a massive satirist, and it felt like a moment of these guys are just bringing this to hip hop, and I wasn't seeing that. I wasn't seeing that blatantness. I think in the music is a bit more subtle. I think the Minstrel Show, like the messaging on the cover was so blatant, but when you actually heard the music, it was a bit more subtle, and you could get tracks that you're not thinking about the concept as much. But what do you remember, by the way, do you remember the Source drama and the BET calling the video too intelligent drama?
Yeah, it's interesting because it did sort of seem like a lot of the auxiliary conversation surrounding the album seemed to at times overshadow the music of the album. And I think that is sort of par for the course when you are sort of aiming for something as pointed and, shit stirring as calling your album The Minstrel Show, going with that album cover. They were, whether they were aware of it or not at the time, sort of inviting that sort of controversy to stir up. Yeah, I do remember the BET sort of the internal memo, I think maybe, or something that was saying that they were not really into playing the Loving It video because they deemed it to be too intelligent. And then Phonte wound up showing up to like a BET event, maybe it was the Hip Hop Awards or something, and he was wearing a custom shirt that said "Too Intelligent" for BET. I'm paraphrasing; the wording might have been a little different. So they were, again, there was that sort of self-awareness, and to your point, the immediacy of the blog era, where like a lot of these things were being addressed very head-on in the mixtapes that would follow as well. Because again, now, in the previous chapters of the music industry and in hip hop, any sort of reaction to what was going on would have to be recorded onto a song and then mixed and mastered and then pressed on an album. And like this could take, whereas they were able to sort of in real time with social media and the way that they engaged with fans on message boards, on MySpace, on, blogs, and on the way that they released music, it could be very immediate in a way that, again, feels totally normal to what the landscape is now, but it wasn't at the time. It felt very much like you were watching a televised drama sort of play out in real time and seeing all of that. So yeah, there was a lot of controversy over it, and I think that it was overblown. I don't think that if you really listen to the album, they're not really going too hard on anybody in particular.
Yeah.
I think that the album works better for me as an album of music and perhaps less as a concept album. If I'm being completely honest, I think that it's somewhat flimsier as sticking to a concept. They sort of they sort of wove it all together with the narration of the skits and the interludes. But, for an album that is ostensibly challenging and critiquing the state of hip hop, outside of like the Cheatin' song, which was, a total skewering of R. Kelly and that sort of music, there's not really a lot of pointed, specific calling out names. This is the problem, da 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 da. And I also remember reading or hearing about, I don't remember, I think it was post Minstrel Show or around the time of the Minstrel Show, that Bun B had actually stepped to Little Brother, and not stepped to them, but it just sort of said, hey, I'm a fan of what you guys do, and I'm a rapper who raps about jewelry and cars. Are you talking about me? And they were, of course, I think Phonte was very quick to, correct that and just be like, hey, no, we're not talking about you. Yeah. And they wound up collaborating on the song Candy from one of the mixtapes as well.
Made them scream hallelujah for it, but on a night like this, it seems my double-breasted ain't suited for it. So I'ma hit them with hard bottoms, slacks and button downs, initials in the cufflinks, the boy don't fuck around. The game is in trouble now, cause we on the dance floor doing our two-step and people start to applaud. For Mr. and Mrs. Tigolo, they dancing with the stars, dead broke, but tonight we party like we millionaires, yes Lord.
So yeah, there was controversy, but I think a lot of it is really just people judging a book by its cover. And look, I wasn't involved in the politics of the Source or BET to know what the real reasons why they weren't necessarily going for supporting these guys, but it probably just had to do with money. Be honest, it probably was just them not, having the funds to sort of grease the wheels and get that support that is the way that things operated then and probably still operate now. Shout out to everybody, coveting these Spotify playlists.
Yeah, still lives through. They say it on there about having the promotion, and like with they never get the right promotion. So they are quite blatant about like in again, very honest and tackle the issues at hand. You talk about the industry bullshit though, like it's still going. Like people who don't know, in 2021, I think, last 2021, they were even saying that they're not been paid royalties from this 2004 record, or it's just like, that's kind of crazy that these things are still lingering on. So it's unfortunate, and you can see there's this. You said there about Ninth working on like the Black album, and obviously he did Back in Black, the album remix that he did, which was sick.
Started out selling down 10 nicks, graduated to a brick, no exaggeration, my infatuation with the strip. Legendary like a schoolboy, crush on nearly every chick. That's how schoolboy got ripped and got left on some chest. Me, myself, and I on some true boy shit. Had the boys to a place of no return. Had to play with fire and get burned. Only way the boy ever gonna learn. Had to lay weight in the cut till I finally got my turn. Now I'm on top in the spot that I earned. It's my life, it's my pain and my struggle. The song that I sing to you is my everything.
And I remember those moments. But Ninth is on Jay-Z's. It was like it's an incredible rise to the top for someone who deserves it, to be fair. Here's one thing, actually, as a producer, this is just coming from a layman who I don't know how these things work and sound, but so he's on Fruity Loops, he said earlier, right? Can you hear that difference from what he's working on to what someone like, I don't know, someone else on Pro Tools or something else is working on?
No, I think that there are people who will claim, and I have sort of phased myself out of a lot of these conversations that happen, like, oh, like Ableton has a certain coloring, and like Logic has this, that.
Right.
That may be true to somebody who really has like a very specifically tuned ear to that stuff. I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think that what stood out about Ninth was that his drums were very loud in the mix, and that's something that you really appreciate when you see Ninth Wonder produced song performed live. I recently went to my homie Merce performed a show in LA a few months ago, and I went to the show, and man, those Ninth beats, when they hit, like they are smacking your face off, and
yeah,
you really recognize. And I remember that about seeing Little Brother as well. Those beats just, knock incredibly. So I don't think that like the software necessarily had any sort of imprint on the sonic identity or audio quality. I think it was just the way in which he was using drums and really where he was putting them in the mix that, if anything, made his sound distinct to where it would raise an eyebrow. And then I think the fact that when it was expressed and communicated that he was using Fruity Loops, which was this like new fangled thing that nobody used, people were just like, oh, now I hear it. But it's like, yeah. I don't think it was very apparent personally.
Okay, right, interesting. So when you look at this album, we got to watch Justice League as well, obviously, but this album, like, it has those elements. You talked about Crisis is in here as well. Is there any other tracks then that you think maybe, again, 5 moments, most rewindables, or like hidden gems off the Minstrel Show that you need to shout out?
I think that All For You is another track that really hits and gets you that lump in your throat. Depending on where you are in your life, they were both being like very vulnerable about it. That sample that Ninth flips is very sort of emotional, and it sort of has a melancholy character to it.
I was looking at your photograph, amazed how I favored you. I remember being young, wanting to play with you, cause you was a wild and crazy dude. And now I understand why my mama couldn't never stay with you. From the roots to the branch to the leaves, they say apples don't fall far from the trees. Used to find it hard to believe, and I swore that I would always hold my family as long as I could. But damn, our memories can be so misleading. It's misery, I hate to see history repeating. Thought you were the bad guy, but I guess that's why me and my girl split and my son is leaving.
They were speaking just about real adult things, and to me, like, that definitely stands out as like this moment of vulnerability and like, oh, this is a group doing something different. Phonte's line on Slow It Down, I want a girl when I want a girl, and when I don't want a girl, I want a girl that understands that.
Sometimes I think I'm from another world. When I'm trying to tell a woman just exactly where I stand at. I want a girl when I want a girl, and when I don't want a girl, I want a girl who understands that.
That, I mean, for anybody who fancies themselves as a creative, as somebody who is very focused on trying to achieve more and do more than what might be set out for them in the path that they could easily take, the path of least resistance. That to me resonates so much, because yes, we want that support, we want, companionship, but also it can be a very solitary existence to be so singularly focused on something like music or something, that is a creative endeavor. So hearing those things was just like, man, he's like, this motherfucker's spitting.
It's that emo. It's that, again, there's little strands that once you pull that strand of what these guys were doing, you then do lead yourself to emo rap, because people are talking like heartbreak and, like mental health issues and stuff like that. Like later on in Get Back, like people need to revisit that album more, because I feel like Pooh's talking about drinking and stuff, and like there are moments in these albums where they are like, shit, you just laid it out there, man. And yeah, big up to them and fair play to them.
I've been at work all day, boss in the back, getting fat, take that, I'm at minimal pay. I'm a sucker to the clock, when I get home, I'm a sucker to the bottle, Patron out the box, Remy on the rocks, Poe trying to take me to go see the doctor, I need detox, no Pete Snops, nigga, I'm a man, flip Murray with the shots, think I'm 3 down, since I ain't sure, I ordered another round, Pooh an alcoholic, how that sound, found peace in the spirits, Ma tried to tell me slow down plenty times, but I just didn't hear it, so I 5th geared it, reared its ugly head, man fuck, I was so misled, how you gonna tell the world that it got you scared, you supposed to be the man, can't bring home bread, making 515, families don't get fed, living check by check, never get in the head, that's life, making it hard to come home, so I'm at the bar, but the stool's my throne, it's on.
I need to shout out one of my 5-minute moments. Here's for anyone who wants to get in touch with me, best morning alarm clock songs in hip hop. Beautiful Morning was that.
Cause even though the birds ain't singing and the sun ain't shining, it looks like a beautiful morning.
Each day is another chance to do the things I could've done the day before, but didn't and known I should've. So I say a prayer for the gone for gooders who left this world, and kiss my girl good morning sugar. Another sunrise, and as much as I would love to roll over on you, I cannot do it because the good Lord, I prayed to him, and he said niggas is listening now, so I better have something to say to him.
Literally was that for me. And there's numerous tracks that have the same effect, but I used to work in radio. I used to be doing breakfast radio shows, so you're up at 4, 5 in the morning, 12-hour shifts, you're knackered. And I remember just being on that morning pitch black winter time and getting on the train, the DLR from East London to London to work at the BBC, and just be sitting there and thinking, when Beautiful Morning came on, it was life affirming. Like, these guys are reaching into my soul, and you walk into work with a spring in your step, because these guys, like, they keep reaffirming on this whole album about like, we're not going to give up, we don't give up, and they do it in Get Back as well. They're like, this is new, but we're going to keep pushing, and there's this amazing drive to it all. And I think that again ties back to my point. If you're a super fan of Little Brother, I see exactly why, because they can really motivate you more than some woo tracks. Woo tracks make you want to smash something, but some things don't make me want to go to work. Like, and you like be like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to pay the bill this month. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
It's kind of genius songwriting in a pop sense, in that, like, if you're going to make music to try to connect with people, everybody experiences morning, whatever time of the day it is. So
Yeah.
what a great savvy idea. Not that I think that this is what they were intentionally thinking, but like, yeah, like doing a song about beautiful morning, and it's like a song about starting your day. How could that not connect with people? Whereas, yes, Wu-Tang, some of these songs does have, it resonates with a lot of people, but when it's about esoteric, things that, like naming a song Beautiful Morning is probably going to connect with more people than, Black Shampoo. It's just, there's more, your percentages is higher that you're going to touch on something that resonates with morning.
Yeah. And just like the Woo though, right? Because they feel like they're a global group, obviously, but they still feel very much where they're from. If you listen back to even Wu-Tang Forever, and it felt like, yeah, these are still guys from where they were from. And I think that's the line as well on Minstrel Show. I think it's on Not Enough, where it's like going global and still being local.
These chips on my shoulder getting stacked. When my pockets catch up, Pooh's never turning back.
Yo, I ain't never heard an actor blow and go global, then come back home and still be called local. And when we on stage, the people they all front, don't beats, don't rhymes, what more do y'all want? Shout it out. Seems like
it was that weird thing. It's like, yeah, no, these guys, they come to London and they're going to sell out a show. Easy. But it does feel like you're kind of treated as a local group, and the way they just span that line is kind of the heart of Little Brother for me. I think there's a lot of positives to being like that way. I can completely see the cons to it as well. Like if you're the artist and you're like, why the fuck are we not getting the promotion or the love that we should be getting for what we're doing? But absolutely, Watch Me was the crisis beat. I need to just shout out because that is unreal.
My heart still scorned and my mind is focused. So this serves as a warning to protest. Any verse disperses sicker than the first, and it's no treatment for this disorder. Carolina's #1 reporter, a nigga who's back with a vengeance, better run for the border, or head for the hills, or duck and seek cover. Who else gonna make it hot this summer? It's LB, nigga. They can't stop.
Now, before we wind this whole conversation up with the last album in this run, Get Back, I just want to pass the baton over to the weird rap crew out there, or as they're now known, the Extraordinary Rap Crew, for their thoughts on why this Little Brother album run is just so stellar.
Up next is Little Brother, The Listening, The Minstrel Show, and Get Back. I enjoyed The Listening. My friends were way more into Little Brother at that time than I was, but I do remember certain songs. There was a song about groupies on that album that really stood out to me. Whatever You Say was pretty good. The Minstrel Show blew my mind. That album is nuts to me, front to back. It came out around the same time, if I remember right, that like I Phantom by Mr. Lift came out. There was a handful of albums that came out that you literally just hit play and you're good to go. Sadly, both those albums are the ones that they say don't listen to because they got screwed over by their label on it. So they don't make anything off those albums and aren't really that happy.
We then go in to, God, by Get Back, so much has happened, but there's so much stuff happens till 07, including, which I realised was a Percy Miracles EP. How have I not heard this Percy Miracles EP? I missed this.
I'll never be the same. Our love is lost forever because you never change.
See, girl, my biggest mistake was that I actually loved you. I tried to take you from a lifetime of purity and replace it with a lifetime of family.
Hey, yo, this past week's been crazy. How the man broke up, it amazed me. How I wake up in the morning, go about my day, and not let this awful truth phase me.
So, Percy Miracles being another Phonte creation, kind of a bit like Sexual Chocolate, I suppose. No, what's his name?
Randy Watson?
Yes. He's doing these like highly satirical moves, but at the same time, as you said, what's happened to Ninth? From this to where they get to with Get Back, they're not even the same group. So what do you remember that time, like going in to Get Back? Where were Little Brother for you?
Well, by the time we get to Get Back, there's obviously been the fallout from the major label and they've parted ways. And that was something that wasn't really a shock because, again, the group was so transparent about how things were going that you kind of watched it unfold in real time. So it did, it felt like a little bit of a deflation in that, speaking to the excitement that was felt earlier, it really seemed like they had made it. And then it was like, hey, as it turns out, Little Brother is not going to top the charts and become a worldwide smash in that way that we had hoped. So with the Get Back, it was sort of back to basics. They were back to, again, I would say that the sonic leap is probably greater from Minstrel Show to Get Back than from listening to Minstrel Show because that personnel change that you mentioned. And I think also there was a mixtape or two in between Minstrel Show and Get Back. So you can sort of chart that evolution. But, this is the sound of guys who have sort of been through the ringer in a certain respect, where they're a bit more disenchanted with the music industry than they already were for making a concept album called The Minstrel Show, like lambasting the hip hop music industry. So it was definitely, I think it's the dark horse in their catalog, and I think it's a little underrated because despite the fact that Ninth Wonder only produces one song and he's sort of not in the group, I think that the album's beats are incredible. I think that the songs are really great. They're both rapping their ass off. I think like Pooh definitely elevates to a level like even higher than he's been, where he is really holding his own with Phonte. Is often looked at as being the top grade MC in the group. The song concepts are really cool. I'm always a fan of when groups get very thematic with songs, and like this is not just a song about how dope I am, or it's not just sort of a broader general topic, but they're really speaking about friendships and betrayal and clothes shopping and the plight of trying to still go to the club when you're probably too old to be going to the club. And to me, it just I think it's a brilliant record, and I think that like it gets discarded for the fact that Ninth was no longer in the group in a way that makes me think like you haven't even really listened to this album if you say that, I think, because it doesn't really feel like they're lacking to me.
Exactly. That's the word. It's different. It's not lacking though. You got Knots, you got Ill Mind, you got Crisis on a lot of this. Ninth, as you said, has done a track as well. But I remember I think this is the moment when I realized Crisis was someone I should be kind of following at this point, because the beats are insane. You talk about the beats, you talk about they're doing the same as we always have done. They're like when everything is new, that is them already. It's like 8 Mile, at the end, I'm going to say shit about myself I know you're going to already talk about. It's the same shit where he's like, I know you're going to say this is different, there's no Ninth One. Yeah, because it's supposed to be new.
I know it sounds like an ending, this is a beginning. The wheels keep spinning on a brand new thought, and people all the time saying rapper Pooh art to go back to school, stop playing cool, was stopped by the pool, no shame, belly showing, hate motivate, last time to keep flowing, that was last time I evolved as a man, and as I got older I began to understand the dreams do change, goals rearrange, it's no longer fame I aspire to attain, cause fame is a drain where your morals get flushed, values get crushed, and we no longer trust what got us here in the first place. For me it only takes one case.
And that setting your stall out and completely delivering, like you said, the bars on here are incredible. The fact you can make such statements after such turmoil and not be well, I suppose you could look at it and go, oh no, they don't sound it to me. They don't sound bitter. They don't sound disenfranchised. It sounds like, okay, we've made a decision. We came to a crossroads. We could have quit, but we're not. We're going to just do it. We're going to keep going. And I think it's one of them real slept on albums that needs to be looked at more, as in when you hear Dreams. Like I hear Dreams, for me, one of my favorite Little Brother songs, because it has that same feeling. You get on that train and that is that, life affirming shit.
I still go to the crib and see my niggas on the corner, chilling with the pounds on their waist, getting old, getting round in the face. And when I hang with them, they ask me if the Minstrel Show means I'm ashamed of them. Well, I can't say that I'm proud, but on the same, can't say I'm allowed to judge. I'm just glad to see you. Cause truth be told, if my records never sold and I wasn't raised as bold, nigga, I would probably be you.
Dreams is up there for me. I was going to say Sirens. If you're kicking off the album with, it feels like they come out all guns blazing. I'm Emilio Estevez in Young Guns. I am just going to absolutely, and they're talking about racial injustice and and social ills, and it just felt rougher, angrier, more direct.
They talk about us not using the word nigga. I want to speak about a couple issues much bigger. Like most black folk live below the poverty line, and they wonder why the fuck we attracted to crime. Got niggas shooting niggas at the drop of a dime. Babies in the street dying way before they time. Many single parent mothers packing welfare lines, and niggas being donors. The apocalypse is on us.
And it felt like, I remember when I first heard the album, it felt like, shit, they're winning. They're winning. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what they were doing, but it sounded like that. And as a fan, it felt great. It felt great.
I was going to say they were definitely winning musically in terms of being able to still, I'm sure that there must have been some, doubts that they were trying to calm in the fact that, hey, just because we lost, Ninth Wonder doesn't mean that we cannot, carry on. And, to hear about it later after the fact in interviews that they've done, Ninth was not even really as involved in the Minstrel Show as people thought that he was. He was sort of already kind of diversifying and getting into working with other artists. So, Phonte and Pooh were really more visionaries of the group and deciding the direction and sort of mapping it out. So in many respects, Get Back was not that different. It's just that they were working with different producers on that. But what's funny that I say that they were winning musically. Were they winning commercially or fiscally? I'm not sure. One thing I do remember about this album is that on the eve of it coming out, maybe the night before, the week before, Phonte leaked the album. He intentionally leaked it and put it on some download service. And I remember that this is such an obscure memory, but it was like a folder in 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 a folder, and like the folders were saying some sort of message, and basically they were already pretty disillusioned with the label side that they were on for the Get Back, which, if I'm not mistaken, did they go back to
Get Back wasn't Atlantic, no, it was ABB.
And so they were already kind of disillusioned by that, and they were just like, you know what? They kind of saw the writing on the wall for what it was. Like, let's just put the album out. You can have it. If you want to buy it, whatever. So I remember that and just being like, oh man, like they really don't give a fuck. Like they're really leaking it. But as far as like the 5 mic moments, I love the song Extra Hard, produced by Mr. Porter, Denon Porter. I just think it's a great sample, a great flip. And, again, that back and forth camaraderie and chemistry between Pooh and Phonte. You don't know what the sample is saying. Is it saying, where are my bitches? Like, it's, where are my bitches? I love that.
Can I just ask you, Sean, have you ever heard a beat so good it's made you want to go get a pedicure before then jumping on it? Come on, man, that's a level.
Hey, yo, Denon, this a provocative ass beat, my nigga, I ain't gonna lie. Like, this shit so hard, it's so provocative. Before I could do it, I had to go get a manicure, pedicure, cucumber, melon, facial wrap. And now, nigga, I'm spitting this shit. I got on a raspberry colored mock neck and some guava juice cologne. Oh, chances are I raised the bar.
I don't think I'd ever experienced that, but I appreciated the specificity there. I was like, I don't get what you're saying, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Can't Win for Losing is a great, sort of, the great second song on the album. The sample is sort of like a weird time signature. It's almost like I have to go back and count it, but I think it's like a 5/4. It's like a weird, rhyme pattern, and they're being very, very clear and very, very direct about where things stand. And I would say if there is a bitter track on the album, it sounds like that one is definitely not bitter, but it's just them being very clear and frank about what this whole experience and ride has been up to this point.
I used to do it for the fans, till I realized that they never understand what I was feeling as a man. Fickle is Trav Fickle, they either hating you or they a stand. Then I said I'd do it for my fam, till I realized that they didn't give a damn. I stepped out of their comfort zone, now I can't step inside my mother's home. Situation so nuts, so much for trying to be a man. Then I said I'd do it for the props, till I realized that the props always seem to stop when niggas can't keep you all to they self, take you home, put you in they little box.
That's a great Illmind beat. Another Illmind beat on the album I love is That Ain't Love, which really low key, I'm like, I don't think I see, legitimate proof to this, but I don't think I'm out of pocket. It's basically Phonte rapping about his relationship with Ninth Wonder and the fallout between that, and talking about how, we would sleep on each other's couches, and work like kings and eat like paupers.
But like sometimes I wonder, with all the hurt and the pain that people that supposedly love you put you through, is that really love? We would go to each other's houses, sleep on the floor, crash on each other's couches, work like kings and eat like paupers. Now my heart palpitates just thinking about all the stress that came up out this. Started out hard, going for the long haul, put all of the bullshit and hoes on pause. Shit got major, we stacked a little paper. Now couple years later, can't get a phone call. Hold up, big fish in a little pond.
That whole disillusion and that thing that fame does, and how the dynamic of the relationship changed. Again, all this stuff just feels really incredible to hear people speaking about the entirety of their personal experience. And, like you mentioned earlier that like it leans into emo rap. I don't know that I would classify it as emo rap, because emotions is a part of like the human experience.
Yeah, no.
I think anybody who's making music and has a full catalog that doesn't lean into emotions, I think we should start calling that robot rap because
fair.
Yeah, music is emotion. So all of these moments really stick out to me as highlights.
That's what Little Brother do though. They show you that, everything is part of the mix, everything. Getting an insider's point of view to a rap group falling apart and them saying my favorite rap groups are all a mess, they all ended up in a mess, and you think, shit, yeah, like I'm actually hearing an insider's point of view. But I just have to shout out, I talked about System. I thought that was one that, again, you're hearing that. I didn't know that much about Pooh at that time, and I loved Sleepers, but to hear him be like, about the drinking and stuff like that, incredible. I thought Two Step Blues, because I used to be heavy on the mini discs, so I'd make my own mini discs, and the Little Brother mini disc, Two Step Blues was top 10, easy, of all the first few albums with the Chitlin Circuit and everything. And there was something about that track that, again, provides you that kind of life energy, and Knots is incredible.
I'm getting tired of the drama. Boss man said he would fire me. I told him I would gladly do the honors, so I just quit, cause this work shit got my dreams on pause like a comma. But I'm still 6-figure fiending, Bull City leaning, and California dreaming like the papas and the mamas. The stress is toxic, but thank God a nigga got direct deposit. So I'ma take this check and pay my rent up, cause this weekend I'm going out like a soldier. Put a little something down on the light bill, let the cable and the phone bill roll over.
And you just the drums,
it's joyous. It's just so much joy and so much energy, and it's hard not to smile and kind of feel that pep in your step when that beat kicks in.
Absolutely. Talk about joyous. This is the difference again with Little Brother. In the spectrum of hip hop, you have all the anti-establishment hip hop, and then you have all the kind of bling rap, like aspirational hip hop. Little Brother had a foot in both worlds in a real reality. It was very real. It was like we said earlier, but like they will rap about good clothes, but it's $40 and it's got so much more humanness and kind of realness and relatability to it that, I do like buying new kicks or new clothes, but I don't see myself as like bling rap. But that's what they were doing. They were still, it made you feel better about it a little bit, and that balance. But man, get back. This is flown for me, this chat. I feel like we probably need to talk a bit more about Justice League. Like for you, Justice League, oh man, like where do you even start? Like for you, where do Justice League stand as a collective in hip hop?
To my ears, it was always Little Brother was the stars to me of the group. I never thought that like, Little Brother's group, but you really need to check, some of the other stuff. I'm not saying that they didn't all have joints. I definitely was into, Big Pooh's Sleepers album that you mentioned earlier. And I would listen to like the Away Team. I think Crisis is like an incredible producer and has really grown into his own. As you mentioned earlier, he really is like a threat and a no pun intended, ninth threat. As a group and as a collective, it's sort of a shame that they weren't able to sort of hold it together longer. And, it just happens. It happens a lot where you have collectives, especially on an independent level. There's really not a formula that's going to work for everybody. And, major labels and big machines can have trouble replicating the success of, okay, this worked and made this person, a star, or whatever the star equivalent is in the Little Brother Justice League equation. So now we can apply that, and now you can do the same thing. That's why, even in some of the most storied indie labels in hip hop from this era, there's usually the headline marquee name, and then there's everybody who's on the second tier in terms of popularity. So, I thought that the Justice League stuff was cool. I definitely was listening to all that stuff back then. I don't necessarily revisit it as I do the Little Brother stuff, but I think that it was good for them to have a crew, and you can really tell that camaraderie and that chemistry kept everybody sharp. It's not operating in a bubble by themselves. They had their cohorts and they had their peers, and everybody was sort of moving together to sort of try to make an impact and put their city and their state on the map.
Yeah, it felt like that. It felt like I remember they did. It was quite sporadic, but I didn't follow them like as a collective. I just see them pop up in stuff I love. Sky Zoo. Remember when Sky Zoo first came out, and the Ninth Wonder Sky Zoo era, and that this guy is incredible.
I run through the plate like bright yellow brake lights. In and out of that lane, I bang when I grace mics. So bow down and acknowledge what my name be. I'm ahead of y'all when I jog, we ain't the same speed. I put the corner where my spine is, accompanied by hard drums and diamonds. And I'm from BROOKLYN. Try him, couple gone late, no sirens. Sky set fire to reps. Flow will make you believe when Big died, I quiet his breath.
Those moments, there was more moments of that for me, but when I look at them as a collective looking through, and they have a fervent fan base, they have a real big fan base, and what I love about it, it's just another little world that maybe I haven't explored enough right now. In 5 years' time, it could be like, I'm going to revisit the Justice League mixtapes I've got or whatever. That's I do enjoy that their music still kind of bangs. I love that. Would you say that Little Brother get the due respect from hip hop as a whole, music as a whole? Do you think they do?
Of course not. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that for people who know, like I guess it just depends on what you define as what is the amount of respect that is due. Like, I think for people who are really attuned, maybe for anybody who would listen to this conversation that we're having, they'd be like, yes, all of these points are true. They made their mark. You can see and trace their influences here and there. But when you look at the sort of components that have fueled and driven some of the biggest artists, not in the hip hop podcast circuit, but in the world, talking about the Kanyes, talking about the Drakes, and there is such a clear and evident, and like, it's not even all speculative. Both these artists were early fans of Little Brother, worked with Little Brother on non-album cuts, and the influence is definitely there. The fact that if, Drake plays some arena somewhere, like, and you were, polling everybody as they walked out, like, hey, like, do you recognize this album cover? Do you know about, when I say Sean Don, what do you think? Like, does that ring any bells? It's probably not going to resonate in the way that it would for people who are in the know. So, I guess I would say they don't get their due respect, but if we calculate and adjust the equation to recognize that we live in a world that is, in general, not fair, then I think that they are fine. They're not shit on. Nobody's shitting on Little Brother, and if they are, they're doing it behind closed doors because it's not a fucking good look to do that. And I think that you see when they reunited for the May the Lord Watch album, it was received well, it sold well. They were doing shows that got canceled or postponed or whatever, just stopped in their tracks by COVID. But those shows were doing well, so it doesn't feel like a tragedy. And they're all doing things now. Obviously Ninth Wonder has done very well for himself outside of the group. That group was, a stepping stone for him. Phonte is like the Renaissance man who, has his hands in so many things, in comedy, in voiceover acting, in music, in helping other people make music. Still an incredible rapper, like has fallen off. Pooh still putting out music, showed on the Little Brother album that he has not lost a step, helping other people guide their careers and getting in on more of the management side. Like, all is well in the world. And I think that we're all just lucky to have received this music. Do I wish that it would have played out differently? Do they wish that? Sometimes. I can only speak for myself. It would have been interesting to see what happens, but it's the world we live in. I think if you had asked 20-year-old me this question, I would have been a lot more fiery and like, the world is unjust and this is bullshit. In my later years, or I don't know, in my later years, because that makes it sound like I'm going to die soon, but I would. I just sort of have an acceptance of it. It's like, what? We got great music out of it. The music is always there for us to listen to. They're all still able to contribute to the game in the way that they choose to, and they have the capacity to. And I just think it's great. I think that their impact was felt, and it might not always be recognized, but anybody who peels back the layers can see that it's there.
Yeah, love that. Beautiful. What a beautiful way to put it. I think May the Lord Watch was that moment for me. That little, just a bit of reinforcement of what I've believed, which was these guys are great. That, why would we? And then that, I do love that album, and it's a few years old now, but yeah, love that album and what they did with that was amazing.
They say tay's the truth. All days, all praise is due. Party people in the place is true. Sure as the skies are a baby blue with no clouds or a trace of dew. The lost days of my hazy youth, where I paid my dues. And my niggas used to raise the roof and move units out of state on some real independent shit. Straight out the trunk like Ray Caruth. Ha, look at what they made me do. Let the style flourish. Who taught food for thought was only for the malnourished? Talking to my cousin Little and he like, man, since y'all been gone, boy, these niggas got wild courage.
So my last question then is a category we have Get Back. The Beatles doc came out. Some people loved it, some people didn't. I loved Get Back. I'm guessing you would say yes to an 8-hour Little Brother documentary. If you wanted it, what era of from these 3 albums would you want that documentary?
Well, you know, there was that mini sort of micro documentary about the listening, which I thought was really dope. And I would love to see more. And, you know, there might be more coming down the line from them. I'm not really sure where they're at with it, but I think that like the reception to that micro documentary certainly sets the stage that like there's more story to be told, and that I think they're really receptive to it. I think it's interesting, you know, talking about Get Back, and then we spoke earlier briefly about the Kanye Genius documentary. I enjoyed all of the different components of those films for different reasons. It's so cool to see the early stuff. So I would love to see like the real foundational, you know, moments of the ascent of Little Brother when they were making the listening. It's also cool. Like there's a lot of drama and a lot of interesting, you know, escalation in the Minstrel Show era as well. So it's hard for me to pick which era would interesting. I guess just whatever they had the most footage from. You know, the footage is always going to be the more interesting stuff. But I think probably like the release of the listening all the way up through maybe the tour of Get Back would be like an interesting thing to see, because there was also a lot of tensions in the group as well towards the end of Get Back. Interesting to explore. Not that I want to see like my my esteemed, you know, musical heroes fighting on camera, but you know, we saw it with the Tribe documentary. Sometimes that makes for a compelling film as well. So
yeah, 100%.
To answer and not answer your question, I will take any version of a Little Brother documentary that there is.
It's probably the correct answer. It probably is the correct answer, thinking about it. There has a story and an arc to this whole album run, and I'm so glad we got to touch on it and go into it and maybe dig out a few of these songs and moments that meant a lot to us and hopefully to you guys out there as well. But Sean, that was amazing. Thank you so much for bringing your passion, your insight, and I suppose it leaves me with my last question for you then, which was, what is the last great piece of music you heard? Could be old, could be new, just the last great piece where you're like, damn, that's amazing.
I want to shout out Soundtrack, who is a part of Ninth Wonder's Soul Council production squad league, who just dropped an album of sample flips on House Shoes label. It's in the background there. You probably can't see it. But, you know, if you're not up on him, he is an incredible producer. I believe he's in the Bay or somewhere in California, Northern California, and he is just killing it with the sample flips. And he, you know, is very much taking well-known songs and well-known, you know, pieces of music people know and just flipping the hell out of them. And to me, that still excites me. That still is something that I'm very much, you know, in awe of, to hear somebody take something, especially when it is something obvious, and really do it in a way that they put their own mark on it. I love that. I love that. So that's something that's definitely been on my mind. I listen to a lot of music that I work on too, so it's like hard to say like
my music.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a fair answer. And a lot of times it's like, I've listened to this 50 times, not necessarily because I love it, but because I'm trying to perfect it. So, you know.
It's those folk jams. It's those folk jams that we need to hear more of. That's it. But Sean, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been an honor. It's been great to have you on. Doors are open for any time you want to jump on again. And yeah, just keep smashing it. People, go out, check the questions, Can't Knock the Shuffle, doing your thing. Until the next time, my friend, we shall catch you soon.
Thank you. Great to be here.